Do you need help with marketing, new clients, or online reviews? Massage Book is your solution, streamlining all the challenging aspects of your massage therapy practice. This powerful software simplifies scheduling, payments, and marketing, allowing you to focus on what you do best, helping clients live better. Plus, sign up now with code ABMP50 and get $50 off after your free 30-day trial. Visit massagebook.com, create an account, and transform your practice today. That's Massage Book with code ABMP50 for $50 off. Don't wait. Give it a shot today. Are you looking for a company that empowers your growth and development? Look no further than the Elements Massage brand, where all massage therapists have the opportunity to thrive through the Elements Massage Career Advancement Program. In the Elements Massage Career Advancement Program, Elements Massage Studios recognize, reward, and uplift their massage therapists, rewarding continuous learning, commitment, and growth. The Elements Massage Career Advancement Program includes professional, elite, and master levels, where massage therapists will enjoy higher commission rates, access to continuing education and development opportunities, and unique career growth opportunities to propel them toward a successful future. Evaluate your career and apply to an Elements Massage studio today. Visit elementsmassage.com/careers and take the first step towards a fulfilling journey. That's elementsmassage.com/careers.
As my youngest child graduates from high school and gets ready for college, I have been doing a lot of reflecting on what parenting is really all about. It is clearly about love and learning unconditional love and growth and connection, but for me, it has also been a ginormous lesson in letting go. Becoming a parent vaulted me from this carefree, day-to-day, living-in-the-moment vibe into a ferociously planning and meticulously organized individual who actually had to make sure another human being on this planet survives. It threw me into a state of having to control enormous details of everyday life that ate up every thought of every day and exhausted me to the core. But I adapted. And I eventually grew to accept and genuinely love that this was the way things were now. I worked hard, really hard, at welcoming this new modus operandi. And also, this process was coinciding with the opposite trajectory that my kids were on, as they figured stuff out for themselves and slowly became independent in ways that helped my exhaustion levels diminish, being able to tie their own shoes, read their own books, make their own meals, and eventually drive themselves wherever they wanted to go. Balance began to return to my house. Along the way, though, I didn't realize that their independence also meant that I had to let go of my new controlling personality. I had adjusted so firmly into parenthood that being managerial became second nature to me. Making sure that they brushed their teeth and ate their vegetables was ingrained in my very cells, like breathing and drinking coffee. And stopping those tightly wound patterns has become a lot harder than I ever could have imagined. Okay, so this is not a podcast about parenting. It's about anatomy. And there is one particular group of muscles that falls into the same prickly predicament. They start off all loose and free. They learn quickly that they need to pull it together, and then they spend a tremendous amount of energy trying to understand their new role in needing to be in control. So much so that when it comes to letting go, they quite literally don't know how. These muscles are the adductors. The adductors are a particular crew. Less formally out in the world, they're known as the groin, but this is deceiving as the groin would infer the upper inner thigh near the pelvis, and the adductors are so much more than that. It is true that if you suffer a groin strain, you have most definitely injured an adductor or two. But to understand this group is to understand the connection of our hips and our knees, and even, I would argue, the rest of our muscular system. Let's start with a lesson in myology. Myology, from the Latin myos, muscle, and logia, a branch of knowledge, is the science that studies muscles, their physical structure, type of fibers, specific function, and the connections between different muscle groups. This is what we do, is it not? We look at muscles, understand them, listen to them, and help them with their issues, both with themselves and with those around them. So when it comes to the muscles of the legs, remembering what it is we do is especially highlighted as our legs quite literally carry us. Knowing better how they carry us helps us to help them. When a human is new to this planet, we are a lot squishier than we are after having aged a bit. The need to stabilize oneself comes after a year or two of just getting to lay there and be catered to. Once we decide we want to get up and go, muscles start engaging in whole new ways. Ways that require contraction, elongation, connection, and most importantly, communication. They each have their important roles: flexion, extension, rotation, etc. But the adductors have it a little harder than the rest. More specifically, as a baby transitions from mushy blob into clumsy toddler, the adductors not only have to adduct, but they also take on the role of stabilization. Very much like when an adult transitions from carefree individual to controlling, governing, helicoptering parent. Stabilizing becomes essential. When a child takes those first moments to lift themselves up from sitting to standing, it's like watching a mountain of marshmallows. And when they decide they want to get from where they are standing to their favorite toy on the other side of the room, it's a lot like Bambi's first time on the icy pond. Initially, there's not a lot of balance. This, it turns out, has to be learned. So while the quads and hamstrings and glutes are having a grand old time exploring flexion and extension and rotation, the adductors are struggling to hold on for dear life. While contraction and elongation of the TFL and the gastrocs generate a propulsion of exciting, thrilling movement, the adductors are becoming acutely aware that if they don't hold on tight, the collapse of the entire system is imminent. So they learn very fast that they need to maintain a tight leash on things, just as a new parent might do with their kid. The myology is specifically this. There are 5 adductors. They range in size and shape, but they all originate at the inferior aspect of the pelvis and insert into the medial upper leg and knee. This means that if these muscles fire, they pull the leg towards the midline of the body, or into adduction. But they do this in slightly different directions with slight variations of force and orientation, because the body, and I know this is shocking news, is a 3-dimensional object. Movement happens in 3 planes. We could argue the existence of a 4th or even a 5th plane, but for the purpose of getting through this podcast without too many tangents, those planes are frontal, sagittal, and transverse. Jumping jacks happen in the frontal plane, running happens in the sagittal plane, and twisting to crack your back happens in the transverse plane. So technically, the adductors, the star of the show during the second half of a jumping jack, act in the frontal plane. But there's always a little more than linear movement in life, isn't there? Let's break it down. From smallest to largest, the adductors are the pectineus, the adductor brevis, the adductor longus, the gracilis, and the adductor magnus. If you look at them on a muscle map from the anterior perspective, they look like one half of a folded peacock tail if the peacock were walking towards the top of the map. But if you look at them from the medial aspect, take away one leg and look at the other leg's inner thigh, they look more like a family of eels peeking out from behind a rock or coral to see what's out there. There's a wave-like quality to them, and this is crucial to understanding how they work. Their attachments along the inner thigh are, for the most part, along a straight line. It's called the linea aspera, and it lives on the back of the femur. The pectineus technically inserts into the pectineal line, but that is nudged up to the medial side of the linea aspera. The adductor brevis, longus, and magnus all grab onto this long bony landmark, vying for space here as it is also a crucial latching-on point for the vastus lateralis and medialis and, more inferiorly, the short head of the biceps femoris. Point being, these are medial thigh muscles that are really rooted on the posterior femur and sharing an attachment site with muscles that pull in opposing directions. That is myology point of interest number 1. Myology point of interest number 2 would be the extra insertion points for the larger 2 adductors. The adductor magnus is so magnus that it actually divides and conquers. Yes, it shares the linea aspera with those previously mentioned leg muscles, But it also reaches down and around the femoral artery and vein and then grabs back onto the femur at the adductor tubercle, which is the medial part of the inner femur where it starts to become the knee. If you can envision how magnus this muscle is, then you can understand why it might sometimes be referred to as the floor of the adductors. With a client lying supine on the table, all the other adductors would be hammocked by the adductor magnus. The gracilis is similarly as large but more long and less magnusy. Being the only one of this group to cross the knee, it gets a lot of attention as muscles that cross two joints should. But I like to think of it like the IT band's counterpart. No, it's not fascia, it's a muscle, but they make an awesome team when it comes to keeping the knee and the hip in line. The third and final cool myology lesson is on the adductors' collective sites of origin. Like those eels peeking out from behind a piece of coral, they all come out from the knee and behind the femur and curl around the medial leg and tip forward and up in varying degrees to grab onto the pelvis. The pubis is the most inferior bone of the pelvis, and it angles forward from the ischial tuberosity, your sits bones, to the pubic symphysis, the bony aspect of the front of your pelvis. The adductors all hang from various aspects of these bones sitting at the very base of our core, kind of like a shower curtain hanging from one of those arced curtain rods, which never made sense to me, but I don't design showers, so. My point is this. The adductors are not flat and do not live in one plane. They have layered and three-dimensional attachment sites at both the hip and along the leg, and therefore do so much more than adduction. They contribute to flexion of the hip, flexion of the knee, thank you gracilis, and possibly medial rotation of the thigh, although this is under debate and current research suggests a role in lateral rotation, which would make more sense to me. Mostly, though, they prevent us from imitating Bambi on an icy pond. They learn how to do this early on, and just like a parent, it becomes etched into their very being. Their role in posture and stability is so essential that they often, unless you are the adductors that belong to Simone Biles, lock into a sort of concrete state of being. So when one goes to kick a ball or, say, step over a large pile of laundry on the floor of your son's bedroom without a proper warm-up, the muscle tissue yanks at the tendinous tissue up near the pelvis, and we are gifted with a groin strain. So these lessons in myology are important in helping us curate our work. But myology is also this. The adductors are not wrong, or bad, or malicious. They are just a product of having had to show up early in life and be strong, stable, and in control. Slowly, as their counterparts and associated muscle fibers and groupings throughout the body learn independence and act on their own to help this human find balance, the adductors can let go. They just haven't learned how yet. Once the other muscles can tie their own shoes and choose all their own vegetables to eat, the adductors need a little guidance toward remembering what letting go can feel like. This can take some time, and that's okay. The need to control a situation is not a bad thing. It usually comes from a place of deep love. And when you love a thing a whole lot, letting go of that thing can feel like it goes against every fiber of your being. Keep breathing, adductors. I am with you. And here we are, the end of the episode. Thank you to the extraordinary crew over at ABMP for helping me get my words into your ears. And if you want to get any of your words into my ears, or more accurately into my brain via my eyeballs from a computer screen, drop me a line at rebelmt@abmp.com. That's rebelmt@abmp.com. I always want to hear your questions, comments, suggestions, or salutations. Also, if you're interested in checking out anything else I'm doing, head over to rebelmassage.com where you will find all sorts of fun things to click on, like homemade organic products for your practice, cool links to continuing education classes, thoughts I have typed up and posted here and there, and other Rebel Massage dabblings.
Anatomy Trains will be holding our flagship Anatomy Trains Structural Integration ATSI training in beautiful Vancouver starting September 16th, 2024. Progressively build your anatomical knowledge, hands-on manual therapy techniques, and most importantly, seeing and understanding postural patterns and developing strategies tailored to individual needs. We warmly invite you to apply today and bring your bodywork career to the next level. Visit anatomytrains.com for more.